The glass doors of Montgomery Industries reflected my face, tired, determined, and done playing nice. I'd driven 3 hours through morning traffic to attend this meeting, only to be met by my Uncle Richard's bulky frame blocking the entrance to the boardroom. "Entry is for shareholders only," he said, not even bothering to hide his smirk. Behind him, through the frosted glass, I could see the silhouettes of my family members already seated around the polished oak table. "I have every right to be here," I said quietly, adjusting the strap of my worn leather bag. The same bag I'd carried since college, back when this company was just my grandfather's dream and a small warehouse on the outskirts of town. "Do you, though?" Richard's voice dripped with false sympathy. "I mean, technically, you're just an employee. A junior marketing coordinator, isn't it? This is a shareholders meeting, Natalie. Big decisions. Real business. Not social media posts and pretty graphics." Through the gap in the door, I caught my cousin Brandon's eye. He quickly looked away, suddenly fascinated by his phone. We'd grown up together, spent summers at the warehouse learning the business from Grandpa. Now he couldn't even meet my gaze. "I'll wait outside then," I said, checking my watch. "My lawyer should be here any minute anyway." Richard's laugh boomed through the hallway. "Lawyer? What? Did you hire someone from those bus stop ads?" "Natalie, sweetheart, this is getting embarrassing. First you demand to attend the meeting. Now you're playing pretend CEO." I found a seat in the waiting area, crossing my legs and pulling out my phone. The text from Harrison Blackwood confirmed he was 5 minutes out. I smiled, remembering Richard's words. Bus stop ads. If only he knew. The boardroom door opened, and my Aunt Patricia stepped out, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. "Natalie, dear, why don't you just go home? This is family business." "I am family," I reminded her. "You know what I mean. Core family. Decision-making family." She adjusted her pearl necklace, the one Grandma used to wear. "Your father would understand. If he were still alive, he'd tell you the same thing. My father, the son who chose teaching over the family business. The disappointment. The one who died when I was 15, leaving me to navigate these sharks alone. Besides," Patricia continued, "we're discussing sensitive matters today. The potential sale to Crimson Corp, restructuring, things that frankly are above your pay grade." "Selling to Crimson?" I couldn't hide my shock. Grandpa would roll over in his grave. He hated everything they stood for. "Grandpa's not here." Brandon had appeared in the doorway, finally finding his voice. "And his outdated ideas about family legacy and employee welfare are exactly why we're struggling. Crimson's offering $40 million. That's real money, Natalie. Not sentiment. The company's worth 3 times that," I said. "According to who? Your Instagram followers?" Brandon scoffed. "Stick to making pretty posts. Leave the real business to us." The elevator chimed, and Harrison Blackwood stepped out. 6'4", silver-haired, carrying a briefcase that cost more than my car. He looked exactly like what he was, one of the city's most feared corporate lawyers. "Ms. Montgomery," he nodded to me, then turned to the group blocking the boardroom. "I believe my client has a meeting to attend." Richard puffed up his chest. "And you are?" "Harrison Blackwood, Blackwood and Associates." He handed over a business card that made Patricia's face twitch. Even she knew that name. "I'm here to ensure my client's interests are properly represented in today's proceedings." "Your client," Richard said slowly, "has no interests here. She's an employee, a junior one at that." Harrison's smile was sharp as a blade. "Is that so? Then perhaps we should clarify a few things." He opened his briefcase with practiced precision, pulling out a stack of documents. "My client owns 68% of this company." The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop in the marble lobby. Uncle Richard's face went white, then red, then a concerning shade of purple. "That's impossible. The shares were divided. William got 30%, I got 30%, Patricia got 30%, and the remaining 10% went to employee bonuses." "Incorrect," Harrison interrupted smoothly. "William Montgomery received 30% of the voting shares. However, he also inherited 100% of the preferred shares, which represent 45% of total ownership. Upon his death, these passed to his sole heir, Natalie." "But the will," Patricia sputtered. "The will you had a junior lawyer from your golf club look at?" Harrison's tone could have frozen hell. "The one you told Natalie contained nothing but personal effects and a small life insurance policy? I've had 3 estate attorneys review the actual documents. Would you like to see their analysis?" I stood up, smoothing down my simple black dress. The same one I'd worn to every company event for 3 years, because designer clothes weren't in a junior coordinator's budget. "There's more," I said quietly. Brandon laughed, but it sounded forced. "More? What? Did you win the lottery too?" "Grandpa's trust," I said, watching their faces change. "The one he set up in 1987. The one that automatically transferred shares to any grandchild who worked in the company for 5 continuous years at below management level." That's a myth, Richard said, but his voice wavered. We looked for that trust. You looked where you wanted to look, Harrison interjected. My client found it exactly where Samuel Montgomery said it would be. In the safety deposit box at First National. The one none of you bothered to check because you assumed the old man was going senile. I pulled out the key I'd worn on a chain around my neck for 2 years. The one Grandpa had pressed into my hand the day before he died, whispering about patience and playing the long game. 23%, I said. That trust holds 23% of the company. Combined with Dad's shares, that gives me 68%, Patricia finished, sinking into a lobby chair like her legs had given out. But you never said anything, Brandon accused. You've been sitting in meetings, taking notes, fetching coffee. Learning, I corrected. Watching. Documenting. Do you know what I've been doing in my junior position? I've been recording every meeting where you discussed insider trading. Every conversation about skimming from the pension fund. Every deal you made that violated federal regulations. You recorded, that's illegal. Richard blustered. Harrison cleared his throat. Single-party consent state. And as a shareholder, she had every right to protect her interests by documenting potential corporate malfeasance. I walked toward the boardroom, and this time, Richard stepped aside. His face had gone from purple to a sickly gray. The crimson deal, I said, pausing at the door. Cancel it. Today. Or I'll call the SEC myself and hand over 3 years of evidence. Your choice. You can't just walk in here and take over. Patricia's voice was shrill. We've been running this company. Into the ground, I finished. I've seen the real books, not the ones you show at these meetings. We're hemorrhaging money because of your management. But that ends today. Harrison handed out copies of the share certificates, the trust documents, and a newly drafted board resolution. My client will be assuming the role of CEO, effective immediately. Given her majority ownership, I trust there are no objections. The family that had blocked me from the boardroom 5 minutes ago now couldn't meet my eyes. Richard slumped against the wall. Patricia clutched her pearls like they might save her. Brandon looked like he might be sick. You knew, he said suddenly. You've known for years. Why didn't you say anything? I thought about all the times they'd humiliated me. The Christmas party where Richard announced to everyone that some people were born for greatness, while others were born to serve greatness, looking directly at me. The birthday dinner where Patricia gave everyone else checks and handed me a company mug. The countless meetings where they'd made me wait outside like a dog begging for scraps. Because Grandpa taught me something none of you ever learned, I said. The best revenge isn't loud or quick. It's quiet, patient, and complete. The boardroom was silent as I took my seat at the head of the table. The same chair where Grandpa used to sit, where Richard had planted himself for the last 5 years like a king on a stolen throne. Now, I said, opening my laptop, let's discuss why you thought selling our family legacy to vultures for a fraction of its worth was a good idea. Harrison, please have security on standby. Depending on what I hear in the next hour, some people might be leaving in handcuffs rather than their luxury cars. Patricia started crying. Richard's hands shook as he poured water. Brandon just stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You were right about one thing, Uncle Richard, I said, pulling up the files I'd prepared. This is a shareholders' meeting, and as the majority shareholder, I have some changes to implement, starting with your termination packages. The lawyer who'd arrived with a briefcase full of secrets sat beside me, ready to dismantle every scheme they'd built on the assumption that the quiet girl in the corner would always stay quiet. They'd kick me out of the family business meeting. They just hadn't realized I owned the building, the business, and their futures. And now it was my meeting, my company, my turn. The Montgomery legacy would survive, but the Montgomery family dynasty? That died the moment they decided I wasn't worthy of a seat at the table. Turns out, I didn't need their seat. I own the whole damn table. Shall we begin? I asked, savoring the way they all nodded meekly. Excellent. Harrison, please read the first termination letter. Let's start with Richard. My uncle's face crumbled as Harrison's voice filled the room, clear and damning. 3 years of patient waiting, of silent documentation, of playing the fool while holding all the cards. Grandpa had been right. The best players aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones who know when to show their hand. And I'd just won the entire pot.